What's going on, people in internet land? Kimchi Chris here, and welcome to today's brand new episode of Rock Bliss with Kimchi Chris, where we are going to take a look at John 5 and ask the question, does he work in Motley Crue? Now, I'm sure most of you are aware of what we're talking about, but just in case you're not, let's rewind to last year, 2022, the year of something. Some stuff happened. I don't know. We're still in that kind of post-pandemic world, but kind of not, and we're just getting back to normal, and 2022 really didn't have a lot going on. But one thing that did happen is that Mick Mars was out of Motley Crue. It was a shocker to a lot of people, but John 5 was in. And of course, whenever you have an original member of an iconic band like that exit and somebody new come in, it's going to ruffle a couple feathers and it's going to excite some others. Now, to some people it might seem like a shocker that Mick Mars was out of Motley Crue, but his health, it's not great. Let's just call it like it is. Not great health. The guy just kind of hangs out on stage. He was still playing the riffs at, a great pace, but he wasn't in the best health in the world. Now, there are other members of the band that are also not in great health, but that was brought on from years of, I don't know, Vince nilling his life up. Is that a phrase we can start using whenever somebody turns into what Vince Neil is now? You Vince nilled your life up. You nilled your life up. I don't know. But the point is, Mick has a disease and he can't control it. As opposed to, again, the things that have happened with Vince's body and voice. Can Vince control those things? I don't know. He could probably take better care of it, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to really look at the fact that Mick was out and John 5 was in. Now, John 5 might be new to some Motley Crue fans, but he's not new to the rock world at all. The guy has a history that's just ridiculous. Most musicians could just dream of working with all the people he's worked with. He just exited Rob Zombie's band to join Motley Crue. Before that, he was in Marilyn Manson's band, and the guy has written and recorded and produced with so many people. It's ridiculous. Everyone from Paul Stanley to Rod Stewart to David Lee Roth to Rick Springfield. Can you imagine the conversations a guy that was in Marilyn Manson's band had to have with Rod Stewart? That's just insane to me, the amount of scope that's really there with his career. This guy is extremely talented, one of the greatest guitarists as well that's out there playing. If you follow him on Instagram alone, you know that. He posts these insane videos where he's just hanging out at his house with his hairless cat, because he has a hairless cat. No, he has two hairless cats, at least two, maybe more. He's a cat guy one way or another, and he loves guitar, so of course I would get along with him, but he's a ridiculously talented musician. So him entering the fold of Motley Crue is exciting from that level alone. I'm not saying that Mick wasn't a great guitarist. He actually always has been and always will be my favorite member of Motley Crue, so having him out of the band is disappointing, but I'm a big John 5 fan, so I kind of fell into the camp of thinking this could be exciting, depending where it went. And ever since this announcement, I wanted to make an episode discussing it, but I thought it would be a better idea to wait until we have a little bit more to go with. Mostly, I was waiting for some shows to be played so that we could watch them on some crappily filmed iPhone videos and then judge the whole show from there. What a concept. And when you know it, those crappily filmed videos are out in the wild since the Crue have played their first shows with John 5. So, I was watching them as soon as they were out. I was watching them the next day, and it was Motley Crue. What can you say? What can you really say? If anyone thought that John was going to come in and reinvent the wheel, then they were wrong. If they thought that they were going to play a ton of deep cuts now that he was in the band, they were wrong. If they thought that Vince was going to turn down the natty lights and go to a gym every day, they were wrong. But those of us that knew John would come in and tastefully play these songs the way they should be played, well, we were right. And that's pretty much what we got. Now, one thing you will notice when you watch these videos or go see them live or anything else is the fact that his tone is drastically different than Mick's. That's just a fact. I mean, they're both loud guitarists in a rock and roll band, but Mick had a very distorted, very heavy, very just raw tone that was very Motley Crue. I think that his guitar tone really defines the band. And John 5, on the other hand, while the tone is still rock and roll and still heavy and distorted and all those things, it's a lot cleaner. You can really hear every little thing that he's doing and the little added parts he's, you know, adding to the songs, and every little nook and cranny of these riffs you can really hear with the way his tone is. I mean, he plays on a different rig with different guitars and I'm sure different pedals and different everything, so it's going to sound slightly different. And I think that's great that they didn't just ask him to be a complete clone of Mick Mars, because as we've already established with our discussion here, he's his own guy. He's known for a style, and he's known to be distinct, even though he has blended well into every band he's been part of. So I think it's great that they're letting him be his own guitarist in this super established, super well-known band. Now, of course, you are going to have your naysayers that say, I won't see Motley Crue without Mick in the band. Apparently, they've been okay with the way Vince has been for years, but they won't go see them now that Mick is out. And, you know, there is the argument of the original lineup and whatnot, and to be fair, most of the years, Motley has had an original lineup. Of course, Vince quit once and Tommy quit once, and it is what it is, but for the most part, it has been original. And again, it is kind of a bummer that Mick is out, considering he was always the guy there with Nicky through all these changes. But with the health as a factor and everything else, I do think this is a positive move. Will I go see the band? Will I go see them if they tour around my side of the world at some point? It still stands similar to what I said last year after I went to the stadium tour. It will depend on a lot of things, what bands they're playing with, how much the tickets cost, all kinds of stuff, because that show was really expensive, and even though I enjoyed Motley's set at that show, it was really expensive and it was a lot to deal with. And in the case of that one, it was delayed about 1 million times. And now, of course, we couldn't help that, but it really will depend on a lot of things. I would love to see John with the band. He definitely adds to the stage presence, I will say, because he does move a lot. Again, it's not Mick's fault. It's not Mick's fault at all that he has a disease. He can't help that. But having a younger guy in the band that's a lot more mobile, sounds great, looks great, and is very relevant in today's rock and roll world, it can only help the band, if I'm being completely honest, from a business perspective. And let's be completely honest, it is the music business, not the music stay true to your original vision-ness. That's not a real word. It's actually not very good English at all, but you know what I'm saying. And I'm sure that's something that was discussed when having a new member enter the fold, because we don't know how long Motley's gonna go at this point. I would predict at minimum, absolute minimum, we're gonna get 2 more tours after they wrap up the dates this year with Def Leppard. And the reason I say that is, at minimum, I think that they'll go out and try to play on their own with just a, you know, decent opening act, but it won't be like a co-headlining thing like the stadium tour was, at minimum. Depending how that goes, we'll see what happens after that, but past that, also at minimum, we're gonna get a second farewell tour at some point from these boys. So John's got a decent little career ahead of him with the band, and let's be fair, even though he's the youngest guy in the band, he's not the youngest musician in the world, so he might look at this and say, you know, other than my solo stuff, this might be the last band that I tour the world with. I'm sure he has packed away some good money through the years, and I'm sure that, you know, if worse comes to worse, he could sell some of that tasty Kiss collection he has. But I have a feeling that he has put enough money aside that he would never have to do that. But he's got a lot of cool Kiss stuff, so he could do that. With all this being said, I also think it's very cool that John 5 is the one they picked to replace Mick in the band. Because let's be honest, they could have picked anyone in the world. It's Motley Crue. They got a budget. And they could have went with somebody that was brand new and unknown and paid them a lot less than they're paying John. Is John 5 getting paid what all the other guys are getting paid? I'm sure he's not. Again, this is the music business. But to get him out of his contract with Rob and really entice him to come with Motley, he has to be getting paid a pretty decent amount, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Props to the guy. It kind of sucks that it ended the way it did with Rob, because it seems like it didn't end on a good note, and that's too bad, but I don't know. I'm excited about John 5 being in Motley Crue. You know, who knows what the future holds. Definitely holds a lot of touring for them. Will they ever work on new music again? I don't know. Do we even want them to work on new music? Those tracks that were on the Dirt soundtrack, which John 5 had a hand in, weren't exactly great, but maybe if he was in the band and they worked on a full length together, maybe it could be awesome. But I know in recent times, Nicky has said that he doesn't really have any interest in making any new Motley Crue records, but maybe with having John 5 in the fold, that could reignite something. They have been buddies for a long time, so who knows what the future really is on that, but the question still remains. Does John 5 work in Motley Crue? And I would say he certainly does. If you had to replace the iconic, legendary Mick Mars, you might as well go with John 5. He's an amazing pick. He brings in the musical chops. He brings in the visuals. He brings in the songwriting chops. And he brings in the star appeal because he is known. He is a known musician. They could have went with anybody, but they chose to spend more money and go with John 5. And I think that's pretty darn awesome. So yeah, I think he fits in Motley Crue very, very well. And even though my opinion is the only one that matters in this episode while you're watching it, your opinion matters quite a bit to me. So I would love to hear from all of you in the comments below. What do you think of John 5? Do you think it's the best move the band has made in years? Are you never gonna go see them again? Are you somewhere in the middle thinking, who is this John 5 guy? I don't understand why all of this fuss is even made about him. Let me know all of that and more in the comments below. And if you are new around here, make sure to subscribe, thumbs up, do all those things that every YouTuber has always told you to do and I've always told you to do, because I need that reassurance. I am conceited and need to know that you care. Once again, my name is Kimchi Chris. This has been Rock Bliss with Kimchi Chris, and I will see all of you on the next episode.